Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the shadowy alleys of Seattle's Central District, where the skies are heavy with drizzle, and the guitar you don't own yet is already humming inside your bones. The air smells like wet brick and frying onions. You're about 8 years old, holding a broomstick like it's sacred, strumming air chords as though the world is already watching. They're not yet, but you feel them out there, future eyes blinking open. You sweep that imaginary fretboard across the living room like it's Wembley Stadium. And somewhere between the creaking floorboards and the hum of the old fridge, your rhythm is real. You probably wouldn't survive this the way Jimmy did. Not without warm clothes, not with a father who drinks too deep, and not with hunger that sits in your belly like a second rib. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me where you're listening from tonight. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You grow up in a house where silence is loud. The walls don't echo, they absorb, keeping secrets and swallowing lullabies. Your mother, Lucille, is a ghost who flits in and out, leaving behind perfume and heartbreak. Your father, Al, is hard, his love measured in discipline and rations. You learn early, if you want comfort, you'll have to make it yourself. So you do. You start carrying things, not just in your hands but in your head. Imaginary guitars, songs that don't exist yet, a coat pocket full of bottle caps that sound like tambourines when you shake them just right. You carry rhythm before you ever carry an instrument. You're still James Marshall Hendrix back then, shy and soft-spoken, scribbling cartoonish rocket ships and dreaming about flying, not in planes, but on stage. A teacher notices how often you draw, how your fingers twitch like they're itching to be useful. She tells you to keep creating. You don't forget that. One day, you find a broken ukulele with one string in someone's trash pile. Most kids would laugh and move on, but you bring it home, clean it off, and start learning how to play with just that one note. One string, one dream, and somehow, it's enough. You don't have money for guitar lessons or even new shoes, but you've got imagination, and that turns out to be louder than poverty. When you finally get your hands on a proper guitar, it's a right-handed cheapie. You're left-handed. Instead of complaining, you flip it upside down and teach yourself how to play it backwards, which, in hindsight, is exactly how you're going to live. Upside down, inside out, rewriting the rules with every move. Seattle in the 1950s isn't kind to black kids with big dreams. But you adapt. You blend. You float between friend groups and lunchtime fights, keeping your guitar like a secret weapon. Music becomes your way in, your way out, your protection. You start showing up at parties with the guitar slung awkwardly over your shoulder, like it's an extra limb. People don't always understand what you're doing, but they feel it. You're rough, raw, but there's something about the way you bend a note that makes people pause mid-sip, mid-joke. At night, you lie awake and listen to records on repeat. Elvis, Muddy Waters, Ray Charles. You imitate every inflection, every moan, every riff. You don't know it yet, but you're building a library in your fingertips. One evening, while walking back from school, you get caught in a downpour. Your notebook turns to pulp. Your socks squish with every step. But there's something about that wet, gray-blue world that makes you feel alive, like a movie reel with no ending. You hum a tune as you walk. You don't write it down. You never write them down. Not yet. But it stays with you, soaking into your thoughts. Here's something they don't tell you in music school. Jimi Hendrix's first instrument wasn't a guitar, it was a city. A city of clouds, echoes, creaking boards, and rhythm in the rain. There's a story, maybe true, maybe not, that once a childhood friend dared you to jump off the school roof, holding only an umbrella. You said, "If I play the right chord first, maybe I'll fly." You didn't jump, but you started carrying your guitar everywhere after that. In those early years, Your most prized possession isn't the instrument, it's your guitar strap. Homemade, fashioned from an old belt and 2 shoelaces, tied with the kind of precision only a dreamer can muster. You guard it like a family heirloom. By age 15, your fingers are faster than your thoughts. You don't play songs, you channel them, like lightning deciding which tree to strike. It's messy, it's magical. People start to notice. Still, life doesn't get easier. You move from relative to relative, sleep on couches, carry everything you own in a backpack that smells faintly of peanut butter and teenage rebellion. But your guitar? That comes first. Always. Biographers still wonder whether your childhood made you a genius, or just gave you no other choice. Was it nurture? Neglect? Divine rhythm? No one agrees, but they all agree on this. Seattle gave birth to something electric. One day, you play for a neighborhood dance, just background music. But in the middle of a cover song, you slip in a little riff of your own. Just a taste. The crowd perks up. A girl near the punch bowl smiles. You don't say anything, but that moment, that's your first hit. You're not running away, exactly. You're stepping out, like a solo after the first verse. At 17, the world looks like a locked door, and the army seems like the key. Maybe it'll offer structure, a bed, a new kind of rhythm. So you enlist, mostly to avoid jail time after getting caught riding in a stolen car. Your fingers weren't on the wheel, but that doesn't matter. The choice is clear. Boot camp or bars? You choose boots. You arrive at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, guitar slung over your back like contraband. The air is different here. Hot, thick, full of mosquitoes and shouted orders. You're supposed to become a paratrooper, learn to leap out of planes with a chute and a prayer. But even in uniform, you're still tuned to a different frequency. You can march in time, sure, but your thoughts keep drifting toward chords, melodies, and the weight of a guitar that suddenly feels like home. Here's a secret most don't know. Your bunkmate at Fort Campbell is Billy Cox. Quiet, cool, plays bass like he's been doing it in the womb. The two of you click, easy as harmonics. When the sergeants aren't watching, you jam in the rec room, swapping riffs and quietly inventing your own language. Music becomes your escape hatch. But your relationship with the army? Let's just say it's a bit dissonant. You oversleep, forget your chores, break formation because you're scribbling lyrics on the back of a ration card. You're physically there, but mentally on another stage. Reports describe you as uninterested in military life and obsessed with the guitar. They're not wrong. And then there's the incident with the red guitar. It's not exactly stolen, more like rescued. Someone leaves it leaning against a wall near the mess hall, and you see it, dusty, nicked, but glorious. A Les Paul knockoff with a single string missing. You pick it up, strum once, and it growls like it knows your name. You don't ask permission. You take it, clean it, restring it with scavenged wire, and play it like your life depends on it. Because honestly, it kind of does. In your duffel bag now, a new rhythm. Guitar picks wrapped in tissue. A wrinkled notebook filled with half-written songs. An army-issued fork you've reshaped into a crude slide bar. You're building a musician's toolkit from military scraps. Then comes the jump. You're finally ready for your first real parachute drop. You're nervous, heart like a snare drum. But up you go, 10,000 feet, the world below like a fuzzy cord. You leap, you land, badly. There's no dramatic crash, no scream, just a weird angle, a sharp pain, and a knee that suddenly belongs to someone else. It's enough. The Army declares you unfit for service. Honorable discharge. Back in civilian life, you wander. You and Billy Cox form a duo, the King Casuals. You hit the Chitlin circuit, smoky clubs, segregated hotels, roadside diners that refuse to serve you. You learn fast, you learn hard. Sometimes you play for 15 people, Sometimes you don't get paid, but you play anyway. Here's a quirky detail. During this time, you keep a tiny tin box in your bag. Inside, 3 guitar strings, a hotel sewing kit, and a broken earring shaped like a lightning bolt. You say it brings you luck. No one questions it. Your style gets wilder. You start playing with your teeth, behind your back, upside down. Not because it's flashy, though it is, but because you're trying to wring every sound out of the thing. People stare. Some laugh. Others are hypnotized. One club owner says, "You play like you're trying to seduce the guitar and set it on fire at the same time." Not inaccurate. Biographers still debate whether this era sharpened your edge or dulled your hope. You're constantly broke. You sell a pair of boots once just to buy a guitar strap. You eat canned beans for a week so you can afford a used fuzz pedal. And still, you show up, night after night. There's a woman you meet in Nashville, a singer with a voice like smoke. You fall hard, fast. She gives you a ring from her costume jewelry box. You keep it in your gig bag for years, even after she's gone. People ask why you never wore it. You just smile. One night, you open for Ike and Tina Turner. You play your heart out. A few people clap. Ike doesn't. Later, he corners you and says, "You're good, too good. Don't outshine me again." You nod, but inside something flares. That old parachute may have failed you, but you're still falling. Into yourself, into sound, into something bigger than rules. It's around this time you start calling yourself Jimmy James. It sounds mysterious, slick, a little like someone famous. It fits for now. And still, the bag travels with you. You start adding odd things, a pack of tarot cards, a tiny plastic dinosaur, a harmonica with only one working note. You say it helps keep the mojo balanced. Most just assume you're eccentric. They don't know the dinosaur belonged to your little brother, or that the tarot cards were your mother's, or that the harmonica came from a guy who promised you'd be famous one day, then disappeared into a bar and never came back. And every night, you zip your bag shut like sealing a spell. You hit the road like a ghost with a groove, sleeping on benches, playing for gas money, hauling your guitar case like it's your only real home. The Chitlin circuit welcomes you the way fire welcomes a spark. Hot, risky, necessary. If you want to learn how to survive in music, you learn it here. The buses are cramped. The hotels are sometimes just someone's cousin's couch. There's a lot of fried food, a lot of sweat, and not nearly enough money. But the music? The music is alive. Every room you play, whether it's a converted warehouse in Mississippi or a club with broken lights in Alabama, vibrates with something holy. Even when no one claps, especially when no one claps. You start playing backup for the greats, Sam Cooke, Jackie Wilson, Little Richard. They're fireballs, all of them. They know how to command a stage, strut like gods, throw microphones and tantrums in the same breath. You watch, you learn, you imitate, you absorb. But something inside you is itching to go beyond. You're not content to just play. You want to speak through your strings. There's a club in Macon where you're forced to play the same 3 chords for 45 minutes straight behind Little Richard. He's got the hair, the heels, the glitter. You've got sore fingers and a head full of unplayed solos. After the show, he tells you, "Boy, you play too loud to be standing behind me." Then he flashes a grin and offers you a chicken wing. You take it. You take everything. What's in your travel bag these days? A change of clothes, always crushed, always colorful. A tin of pomade so strong it could hold up a building. A velvet pouch of guitar picks you call your magic teeth. A Polaroid of you and Billy Cox in front of a gas station that no longer exists. And, new addition, a fan letter from a girl who says your guitar made her cry. You don't know how she found you. You just fold the letter carefully and keep it close. Here's a fun fact. Your tour bags often include a broken compact mirror. Not for vanity. You use it to angle stage lights, reflect patterns, make your guitar shimmer. People think it's part of the effects. It's not. It's just you, always finding light in broken things. Biographers still argue over how many shows you played during this era. Some say hundreds. Others swear it's closer to 1,000. There's barely any footage, no clear timeline, and your memory of it, when asked years later, isn't much more than a blur of highways, fried chicken, bad wiring, and that one night you swear you saw James Brown argue with a jukebox. But something's shifting. The longer you tour, the more restlessness builds. You're playing someone else's music, living in someone else's style, wearing hand-me-down stardom. Your solos are getting longer, wilder. You start throwing in notes that don't belong. Or maybe they do. Maybe you're just hearing music in colors now. One night, after a set in Birmingham, a promoter pulls you aside and says, "You ever think about heading north? Real north? Like New York City north?" You pause. Your gut says yes. Your wallet says, maybe. You do what you always do when you're unsure. You write a riff. Later that night, in your motel room, you scribble lyrics on the back of a fried fish menu. The next morning, you steal a spoon from the motel breakfast bar, not because you need it, but because the curve of it looks like a musical note. You drop it into your bag without thinking. It'll stay with you for the next 5 years. You finally make it to New York. It's 1964. You're broke, but not broken. Harlem opens her arms, though not always warmly. You play at Café Wa for $10 a set. You wear clothes scavenged from thrift stores and pawn shops, layering textures like you layer tones. The Greenwich Village scene is boiling over with folk and jazz, but you come in with this molten sound no one quite understands. You bend strings so far they sound like they're crying, then laughing, then catching fire. Crowds tilt their heads. Some get it, some don't, but nobody forgets. Here's a strange moment. A man in the audience hands you a pair of sunglasses and says, "You're gonna need these where you're headed." You try them on. Too big. Way too weird. You keep them anyway. Later, they'll appear in photos like some accidental prophecy. Your bag starts to evolve too. It's not just functional now. It's sacred. You carry dried rose petals wrapped in tissue, a chess piece, Black Queen, from a park set you once beat a stranger with, a melted candle stub you lit during a gig where the power went out, and always, spare strings. At least 4 sets. You never want to feel that silence again. You start calling your guitar, my baby. Not out loud, not to others, just under your breath, when tuning her, stroking her neck, whispering promises no one else hears. You play like someone in love, someone fighting, someone healing. But here's the part no one talks about: how tired you are. Not just physically, but soul tired. You give so much to each note, each stage, each smoky room. You crash in borrowed beds, on apartment floors, sometimes in the backs of parked cars. And every time you unpack that bag, it feels heavier. Then comes the night you meet Chaz Chandler, a former bassist for the Animals, turned manager with a sharp ear and a sharper suit. He sees you at Café Wa and hears something no one else has managed to yet. Fire, yes, but form, purpose. He offers you a deal. He says, "Come to London. Let's wake them up." You hesitate. You've never been farther than New York. London might as well be Mars. But the music inside you? It's already there. You step off the plane in London, with frost in your lungs and fire in your fingers. It's September 1966, and the sky here feels different, heavier, somehow quieter, like it's waiting to see what you'll do. You're wearing a wide-brimmed hat, a hand-me-down coat with frayed velvet lapels, and the same boots you slept in 3 nights ago. You don't look like a star, but your guitar case hums with something ancient, like thunder holding its breath. Chaz Chandler walks beside you, all business and belief. He talks fast, drops names: Clapton, Beck, Townsend. You nod, pretending to care, but your mind is somewhere else, already building riffs in your head, wondering how English distortion might taste with a bit of Mississippi grease. The city is gray, but not dull. It smells like coal smoke, pub floors, wet bricks, and ambition. You take it all in. Like always, your travel bag is light but strange. Just the essentials and a few sacred oddities. Tonight it holds 3 guitar picks, 2 cracked, 1 bitten. A nearly empty bottle of patchouli oil. A silk scarf that belonged to a girl you never quite kissed. A tiny plastic Buddha with 1 arm missing. And a slip of paper that reads, "Make them feel it." Your first few gigs here are small, tiny clubs in Soho, where the ceiling leaks and the sound guys barely speak. But from the first note, people freeze. Not in fear, in awe. You play like the guitar owes you rent. You play like you're trying to speak to someone on another planet. You play like you've been silent your whole life, and now the dam has broken. Word spreads faster than the chords. One night, Clapton shows up to watch. Eric Clapton. God, as some fans call him. You know the name, know the myth. You also know you're about to knock the wind out of it. They call you on stage during Cream's set. Just one song. You walk up, thank Clapton, plug in. You close your eyes. You don't play. You ignite. The crowd doesn't breathe. Clapton walks off stage mid-song. Later, someone asks him where he went. He says, "To get my head straight. I just saw the future of guitar." Biographers still wonder whether this was the moment London fell in love with you, or the moment it realized it wasn't ready. You start making waves, big ones. Everyone wants to see the American who plays like a lightning strike. Managers start calling. Paparazzi snap blurry photos of you smoking on curbsides, kissing strange girls, wearing military jackets and paisley shirts like you invented them. And the guitar? She's a Fender Strat now. White, sleek. You call her Betty some days, Lucy on others. You flip her upside down and squeeze sounds from her that make grown men weep and women throw hotel keys onto the stage. A week into your London stay, a fan gifts you a tiny red monkey doll. Its eyes are crooked, its fur matted. You love it instantly. It gets a permanent spot in your travel kit, next to the tuning fork you never use, and a pouch of tea leaves labeled Saturn Blend. No one's quite sure what's in that tea. You sip it before every show. Here's the strange part. Every time you unpack, your bag smells like incense and melted rubber. No matter where you are, motel, mansion, bus. It's a scent that follows you. People start calling it Hendrix air. You just shrug. Soon, it's not just the music world buzzing. Fashion designers, poets, philosophers, they all want a piece of you. You're not just a guitarist, you're a phenomenon. The way you speak, the way you move, the way your voice lilts at the end of sentences, like it's unsure whether to land or fly. You meet a model who writes poetry on mirrors and lives in a flat filled with wind chimes. She says your aura is molten purple. You have no idea what that means, but you write a song about it anyway. Your bag for that week? A journal with dreams scrawled sideways, an empty box of matches labeled ideas, a broken tambourine you refuse to throw away, and the monkey doll, now wearing a tiny gold chain. You play a show in Manchester where the stage lights short out mid-set. You keep playing anyway. Someone in the crowd lights a candle, then another, and another. You finish the song in a room full of flames and shadows. Someone snaps a photo. It becomes iconic. You don't even remember the song. Backstage, you pull out a tin of face paint and dab silver on your eyelids, just to see how it feels. Later, someone will copy that look and turn it into a fashion trend. You'll never claim credit. That's not your style. Biographers still argue about your rise. Was it timing? Raw talent? A hungry British audience primed for something exotic? Maybe all three. Or maybe it was just you, undiluted, finally given space to burn. You get your own band, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Mitch Mitchell on drums, Noel Redding on bass. You rehearse in dusty studios, eat fish and chips between takes, and argue about tempo like it's religion. The chemistry is weird, explosive, unstable, perfect. Your bag grows fuller, fuller of rituals, fuller of relics. You start carrying a hotel ashtray with "Property of Jimmy" scratched underneath. A tape recorder filled with half-songs and mumblings. A bracelet made from shoelaces and safety pins. A napkin that just says, "Can sound melt metal," in pencil. And then, the moment hits. A single show. A crowd that pulses. A solo that folds time. You walk off stage soaked in sweat, eyes wide, limbs humming like tuning forks. A kid from the audience hands you a paper crane and says, "You made me see stars." You thank him. Fold the crane into your bag. The tour van smells like patchouli, spilled beer, and burning dreams. You ride it like it's a spaceship crammed between amplifiers and velvet coats, with your knees up and your thoughts somewhere in another key. Cities blur by, Amsterdam, Paris, Stockholm. Fans scream, then vanish. But always, always your bag rides beside you, slumped in the footwell like a loyal dog. And what's in it now? Oh, just the usual. A scorched black bra flung at you in Vienna. A stick of Nag Champa incense taped to a lighter. 3 different rings you don't remember acquiring. A monkey doll dressed in a tiny leather vest. A folded note in a stranger's handwriting that says, "For the noise you make, I forgive the silence." Touring's chaotic, beautiful, terrifying. You sleep in hotel bathtubs. You sign autographs on body parts. You wake up not knowing what country you're in. But when you step on stage and plug in that Strat, your whole soul recalibrates. The crowd becomes an ocean, and you, a tidal wave with rhythm. This is when the real magic starts. The moment your travel bag becomes a shrine. It's not about convenience anymore. It's about anchoring yourself. You pack objects not for use but for presence. A sliver of driftwood from a beach in Dublin. A blue marble you found in a parking lot. A photograph of your father you swore you'd never carry. But it helps. Sometimes. And then, it happens. The Monterey Pop Festival. California sun. Psychedelic everything. Everyone's barefoot, painted, electric. You wear a poet's shirt and a look in your eyes like you've already seen the afterlife. You're a last-minute addition to the lineup. Most of the crowd doesn't know your name. Yet. You walk on stage like a question, but you leave as the answer. And the bag? Sitting off stage, zipped but buzzing. You open with killing floor. The guitar screams. You smile. People run toward the stage. Pete Townsend watches from the wings, jaw slightly ajar. Janice dances like a thunderstorm in the pit. You close with Wild Thing, but not the version people expect. You don't just play it. You ceremonialize it. Here comes the lighter fluid. You kneel before your guitar, gently, reverently, like a priest at the altar. You douse it, spark it. Flames bloom like neon roses. The crowd gasps. The guitar burns. And you kneel, arms spread, face painted with sweat and devotion. People say you sacrificed your instrument, but the truth? You released it, set it free. Biographers still argue. Was it spontaneous? Pre-planned? A PR stunt? A spiritual moment? You never say. You just grin. Backstage, you open your bag. The scorched bra is now doubly symbolic. The monkey doll watches. The lighter goes back in its spot like a holy relic. Someone offers you champagne. You sip once, then hand it off. You'd rather drink silence for a minute. That night, you sleep in the van with the guitar's charred remains beside you. Ash in your hair, a song stuck in your throat. Here's a lesser-known detail. After Monterey, you start carrying a new object, a feather, iridescent, impossibly long, plucked from the costume of a dancer you watched backstage twirl herself into a trance. She gave it to you. You didn't ask. You keep it pressed in a notebook under the words, "Everything that flies burns first." Touring intensifies. So do you. You start dreaming in chords. You wake up humming riffs. You write lyrics on matchbooks, pillowcases, even your own arms. Your bag's latest additions? A harmonica you never play. A thimble you use to slide across the strings during solos. A melted crayon that somehow still writes. A torn map of California with every city crossed out except here. You start refusing to rehearse. You say, why rehearse a moment that hasn't happened yet? You trust the chaos. You bend to it like wind. One night in Detroit, a man hands you a vinyl bootleg of your own show. You sign it and hand it back. He doesn't even care. He just wanted to touch you, be part of it, even for a second. That same night, in your hotel room, you unpack your bag. You light the incense. You line up the objects like tarot cards. You breathe. And for the first time in weeks, you play not for a crowd, not for survival, but for you. A quiet riff, a lullaby made of feedback. You name it Angel. You won't record it for years, but it lives here first, in this motel, in this bag, in this moment. Sometimes, your bandmates joke about the bag. What are you carrying in there, man? Magic spells? You just smile, because they're not wrong. You don't sleep the night before Woodstock. Not because you're nervous. No, nerves don't quite reach you like that anymore. But because there's too much static in the air. You can feel it in your teeth, in your fingertips. The world is humming, and for once, it's in tune with you. You show up late, technically. Everyone else has played. The stage is splintered from rain, the crowd is half mud, half dreams, and the sun is just beginning to crawl back over the horizon. You step out into morning like a prophet made of patch cords and peacock feathers. What the cameras don't show? Your bag's resting behind an amp, hidden under a poncho. The mud nearly claimed it, but a roadie yanked it up in time. It's damp, a little warped, but it's there, still humming. You unzip it before the set, do your usual ritual. Incense lit, monkey doll tapped 3 times on the head, scarf draped over your shoulder just so. New items inside include a spent shell casing you found outside a hotel in D.C., a stained handkerchief with lipstick kisses in 2 different shades, a toy soldier with no arms, a folded American flag, miniature, embroidered with gold thread. You walk on stage carrying a nation in your hands, literally, and then you start. It's not the set people expected. You noodle, you drift, you stretch songs like taffy, let feedback speak when words feel clumsy. The crowd is exhausted, but you play like the whole world is just waking up. Then comes the Star-Spangled Banner. You don't introduce it. You don't need to. You launch into it like it's pouring out of your spine. And you don't play it pretty. You tear it apart, note by note. You let the distortions scream like bombs. You imitate sirens, machine gun fire, screeching jets. National pride becomes national pain, then loops back into something soft, something hopeful. Biographers still can't decide. Was it protest? Praise? Parody? Some say it was a cry of rage. Others say reverence. You never confirmed. That's not how you operate. But that moment, that noise, that melody turned inside out, it lives forever. And your bag? Still behind the amp, watching. You finish your set and vanish like smoke. Later that day, someone finds the monkey doll in the grass. They think it's a child's toy. They almost throw it out. Almost. Woodstock cements your mythology. You're no longer just Jimi Hendrix, guitar player. You're Jimi Hendrix, living spirit of sound. Everyone wants a piece of you. Labels, journalists, bootleggers. You start dodging interviews like dodgeballs. They ask the same questions anyway. What does your music mean? What's the message? Are you political? You say things like, I just want to feel what the guitar's feeling. And that's enough. Or too much. Depends who's asking. After Woodstock, your bag becomes heavier. Not physically, spiritually. You start packing it with more care. Like you're building an altar, you include a candle stub melted into the shape of a bird, a silver spoon you bent into a treble clef, 3 matchbooks with your initials scrawled on them, and a pill bottle filled with tiny beads, each one painted with a planet. You tell people, I don't travel, I migrate. And it's true. You don't just move through space, you alter it. Rooms feel different after you've left, like the echo is still catching its breath. There's a show in Berlin where a fan throws a notebook onto the stage. You pick it up mid-riff, flip it open, and read a poem out loud into the feedback. You never stop strumming. You turn her words into a song. People cheer like it was rehearsed. It wasn't. Later, in your hotel room, you tape that poem to the inside of your bag. You're starting to collect paper like a raven, notes, poems, ticket stubs, wrappers with lyrics scrawled on them. Your bag starts looking like a scrap pile, but it makes sense to you. It always has. Biographers still wonder if this period was your peak or your tipping point. Some say the fame swallowed you whole. Others say you started slipping through the cracks on purpose. But none of them saw you the night you stayed up recording backwards solos, just to see if they would make more sense, played in reverse. They didn't. You laughed anyway. You begin experimenting even more, musically, visually, emotionally. You build songs like collages, layering sound on sound, tones that crackle like embers, then smooth out into lullabies. You start writing down dreams in a notebook you call echoes. In the margins, you doodle eyes, lots of them, watching. Your bag now includes a tiny hourglass glued shut, a page ripped from a physics textbook about sonic vibration, a Polaroid of a dog you pet for 3 minutes at a truck stop, and a slip of paper that simply says, "Can you hear color?" You start wearing cloaks, military jackets with satin linings, pants made of patchwork velvet. You float into venues like a wizard in Technicolor. Someone once asked if you dress that way to stand out. You said, "No, this is just what I look like in my dreams." One night after a show, you empty your bag onto the hotel bed. You arrange everything in a circle. You hum a melody you don't recognize. You close your eyes. You fall asleep mid-hum. You wake up to a new riff, and it's perfect. You open the door to your kingdom, a studio of your own, and the world suddenly bends toward your frequency. It's 1970 and Electric Lady Studios is finally yours. Deep in Greenwich Village, beneath layers of scaffolding and street noise, you carve out a sonic sanctuary. Brick by brick, chord by chord. It smells like paint and sawdust at first, then incense, then candle smoke, fresh vinyl, and tea steeped in copper kettles. This isn't just a recording space, it's a temple. And like any sacred space, it has rules. Rule number 1, you can bring whatever you want inside, which means your travel bag becomes more than luggage. It becomes an archive of your mind. Before every session, you place it gently beside the mixing board. You unzip it like a magician revealing their secrets. What's in there now? A packet of loose tea leaves labeled Cosmic Boost, a cassette tape with a hand-drawn label, Sky Jam, a crystal pendulum swinging from a shoestring, a crumpled napkin with the words, "The moon hears you," and a small jar of what you call dream dust, which turns out to be glitter, tobacco, and a single rose petal. You start every session with silence, not tuning, not levels, just quiet. You light a stick of incense. You place the monkey doll on the amp. Then, and only then, do you play. The engineers know better than to interrupt. You record like a man possessed, or perhaps finally set free. You layer sound like paint. You feed tape reels like they're hungry mouths. You strum chords backwards, bounce signals off glass, run microphones through fish tanks just to hear the water shimmer. Biographers still debate whether you were chasing a sound or being chased by it. And all the while, you write. Everywhere. On the walls, on paper plates, everywhere, on the back of your hand. You write about space, women, war, silence, and soup. You sketch out lyrics that become lullabies and war cries all at once. You hum melodies into the recorder at 4 a.m., then play them back the next day like decoding a dream you already forgot. Electric Lady isn't just a studio. It's a portal. You walk in tired, world-worn. You walk out rewired. One night, you bring in a violinist who's never heard your music. You don't give her sheet music. You hand her a feather from your bag and say, "Play what this makes you feel." She does. It's haunting. You use the take, unedited. Afterward, you add the feather back into the bag. You also start carrying a children's book of constellations, an empty vial labeled moon water, a pencil stub that only writes upside down, a single earring you swear belonged to Janis Joplin. You meet a mystic who tells you your bag is a divining object. She asks if she can touch it. You politely decline. Some things are meant to be held by one soul only. Electric Lady attracts legends. Bowie visits. Miles Davis stops by. People enter softly, like they're walking into a cathedral. The walls absorb sound and give back magic. And in the corner, always the bag, waiting. You write Drifting on a rainy afternoon with the windows fogged and no one around. Just you, your guitar, and a teacup balanced on an amplifier. The lyrics come fast, but soft. Drifting on a sea of forgotten teardrops. You don't tell anyone it's a song for your mother. Here's a little-known fact. There's a locked drawer in Electric Lady's main room. You store a few things there, but always return them to your bag after. Among them, a domino set with missing pieces, a Polaroid of you in a mirror with your eyes closed, and a postcard of Saturn with a stamp from 1963. Biographers argue whether you ever intended to finish your last album. There are scraps, yes, song fragments, titled and untitled, but no official goodbye, no curtain call, just sound, beautiful, unfinished sound. You once said, "Music doesn't stop. It just waits for someone to pick it up again." That's how you treat every recording, as an offering, not a statement. You begin to spend the night in the studio, curled on a couch, bag under your arm. You wake up with new ideas. You jot them in a spiral notebook that smells like ash and lavender. Sometimes the pages are soaked with tea. Other times, your own sweat. The notebook lives in your bag now. So does a tarot card, the star, a slingshot made from a broken guitar string, a list of people you miss, with no explanation beside each name, and a piece of sidewalk chalk you use to draw sigils in the booth before recording. You tell a friend, "This bag is full of futures I'm not ready for," but you keep carrying it, city to city, studio to studio, even when the weight changes, even when your hands start to tremble a little from too many shows, too little rest. One day, you sit in the middle of the studio floor, bag open beside you, surrounded by tapes, teacups, feathers, pages, and fuzz pedals. You look up and say, "This is the sound I've been looking for." No one else hears it, but you do. You glide through Europe like a mirage in motion, always seen, rarely held. Your shows are growing louder, stranger, softer, sadder. Depends on the night, depends on the bag. Because now, every stop on the tour is a different you. One night you're the fire-breathing god in blue velvet. The next, a quiet poet lost behind his own amplifier. And the tour bag? It's changing again. You've replaced the old canvas thing with a patched-up leather duffel, still beat up, still holy. Inside, a teddy bear, fur rubbed smooth from handling. A single glove with stars drawn in marker. An astrology chart folded 17 times, stained with tea. And a half-eaten moon pie in foil from a fan in Atlanta. No one else in the band gets it. "Why the moon pie, man?" someone asks. You shrug. It felt important. The truth is, you're clinging to pieces of sweetness, however small, however sticky. Fame's bitter. Crowds are demanding. And backstage, well, backstage is lonely in a way that no number of adoring fans can patch up. Your guitar talks to you more than people do, and it listens better too. You start wearing more silk, flowing shirts in lavender, crimson, midnight blue. Your boots are handmade. Your hair is longer, softer. But inside, there's a bruise growing. You feel the weight of your own mythology pressing on your ribs. Some nights, you stay silent after shows. Not moody, just emptied. You sit cross-legged on the hotel carpet, the bag in front of you like a campfire. You unpack it slowly, like it's a ritual. One by one, the items come out. You look at them like old friends. You light the incense, the items you hum old tunes under your breath. You rewrap the monkey doll's little vest. And sometimes, just sometimes, you cry. Not loudly, just enough. Biographers still debate whether this was burnout or transcendence. Were you cracking under pressure or dissolving into something greater? Your bandmates didn't ask. They just played louder, hoping to keep up. You add new things to the bag in quiet cities. A guitar pick dipped in candle wax. A napkin with a doodle of a house under a full moon. A train ticket from Rome you never used. A love letter you never sent, the envelope unsealed. One night, during a show in Copenhagen, a string snaps mid-solo. You don't stop. You play on with 5 strings like you've got 15. The crowd goes feral. Afterward, a A stagehand hands you a rose from the audience. You press it between pages of a blank journal. That journal joins the bag. You start writing in it on long rides between shows, half poems, half recipes, fragments of dreams. One entry simply says, "The sky made a sound today I've never heard before." Another says, "I'm not homesick, I'm soundsick." The hotel rooms start to blur. You leave behind bits of yourself. One scarf here, a drawing taped to a lampshade there, a guitar string tied around a doorknob, like a goodbye nobody will recognize. Your bag becomes your anchor. You carry it on planes, on stage, into restaurants. You won't let anyone else touch it, not even roadies, not even friends. Once, a curious journalist tries to peek inside. You stop mid-sentence. Your smile drops. Some things, you say, don't want to be seen until they're ready. You change your stage entrance routine. You walk slower, softer. You hold your guitar like it's made of glass. Fans don't notice. Not really. They still see the feathers and fire. But the storm's brewing inside now, not out. One evening in Berlin, you sit alone on a hotel balcony. It's cold. You've got a blanket draped over your shoulders and your bag open beside you. You pull out the tea blend, Saturn blend, still going strong, and sip it slowly. Inside the bag, a matchstick box with a single match left, a penny flattened by a train, a strip of paper that says, "Don't forget the soft songs," and a photo of your father's hands, fingers curled mid-chord. You stare at the photo for a long time. You never play that night's show quite the same again. Later in the tour, someone surprises you with a gift, a handmade notebook, leather-bound, filled with blank pages and tiny illustrations of birds. You nod thanks, but you're already flipping through it, eyes wide, fingers trembling. You don't say it aloud, but it's the most perfect thing anyone's given you in years. You name it, the Skybook. It joins the bag. You begin filling it instantly. Lyrics, chord diagrams, doodles of staircases that spiral into stars, a sketch of your guitar crying in a hotel room. You tape a single guitar string to the inside cover, right beside it, "In case I break." Backstage in Milan, a fan gives you a feathered mask. You wear it on stage for one song, then place it gently inside the bag. You tell people you're saving it for another life. Here's a quirky truth. You start carrying packets of sugar from every hotel cafe you visit, not because you use them, but because they remind you of beginnings, of mornings, of possibility. The bag now jingles softly with them. One morning, in Paris, you unzip your bag just to check if it's all still there. You breathe a little easier when it is. Everything is still you, scattered, sacred, soft. Hotel rooms all start to feel the same. Beige curtains, bleached sheets, the soft buzz of an old television set with no sound. But you've got your own ritual now. The first thing you do when you enter a room isn't check the minibar or kick off your boots. It's setting your bag down, right beside the bed, and unzipping it like you're letting something breathe. Room 507, Zurich. You won't remember the art on the wall or what the room service tasted like, but you'll remember how the light came through the blinds in perfect stripes. You'll remember how quiet it was, the kind of quiet that made you feel like the last person on earth. The bag spills out slowly this time, like it's sighing, like it's tired too. Tonight, it holds a silver chain with no pendant, a tiny book of haikus in Japanese you can't read, a guitar pick wrapped in blue thread, a cassette labeled "Backwards Laughs" in your handwriting, and a pressed violet in a plastic sleeve. You've started carrying talismans, things that don't mean much to others but feel charged to you. The violet's from a fan who handed it to you through a fence in Paris, said nothing, just handed it over and disappeared into the crowd. The cassette? It's laughter, distorted, recorded while you were fiddling with the reel-to-reel, catching you and Mitch giggling like kids. You never played it for anyone else. You only listened to it in rooms like this. Alone, wrapped in a hotel blanket, feet poking out, guitar by the window like it might serenade the moon without you. Biographers love to speculate on what you were like when no one was watching. They argue over your moods, your loneliness, your mind. But no one ever talks about the ritual of the bag, how sacred it became. Each night you do it. Unpack slowly. Light the incense. Whisper to the monkey doll. Place the matchbox just to the left of the TV remote. You're not superstitious. Not really. But these objects, they anchor you. They remind you that you're still a person under all the sound. You start keeping things from the audience too. Notes tossed on stage, folded into hearts. Bracelets slid onto your mic stand mid-song. A small pendant carved like a crescent moon. One time, someone throws a shoelace. You keep that too. You even start naming the hotel rooms in your journals. Room 301. Felt like a chapel. Room 512. Too many echoes. Room 407. Woke up to silence and forgot who I was. But room 507. That one stays with you. It's where you wrote down the phrase, "Let the sound rest." Not long after, you begin dreaming of home. Not Seattle exactly. Just somewhere quiet. Somewhere warm. With a kitchen that smells like cinnamon and a chair that knows your shape. You don't want to stop playing. You just want to play softer. But the tour is relentless. So you keep going. You show up. You melt faces. You set fire to strings and pull galaxies out of distortion pedals. And every night, you zip the bag closed like sealing a vault. You start noticing small things going missing. A candle stub you swore you packed. A slip of paper with lyrics. The Saturn Blend tea. Nothing major, but enough to feel like the bag is changing again. Evolving, even when you're not looking. One morning, you find something you didn't put in there. A marble. Deep green, swirled with gold. No note, no explanation. You turn it over in your hand for 5 minutes before gently sliding it into the pocket with the train ticket from Rome. The bag's gaining a life of its own. On stage in Gothenburg, your amp buzzes like it's speaking in tongues. You lean in and play the solo anyway, notes tumbling like tears. After the show, someone leaves a journal backstage. Inside, just one sentence written on repeat. He sounds like flying. You tape that page inside the lid of your bag. In your downtime, which is rare, you begin sketching again. Mostly abstract shapes. A recurring cat with stars for eyes. Mountains with tuning pegs instead of peaks. You tuck the drawings beside your lyrics. You begin to wonder, are these songs? Are you drawing the sound before it exists? Here's the secret you don't say out loud. The bag is your best listener. You've never told it a lie. You've never had to explain yourself to it. You keep a scrap of velvet from your first tour jacket, a pencil that only writes when you're alone, a spoon with the word breathe etched into the handle, a coin from a country that no longer exists. You're not sure where some of this stuff came from anymore, but it belongs. That's all that matters. Your bandmates tease you about the bag less now. They've seen what happens when you touch it before a show, like plugging into something ancient, like switching on the weather. Some nights, you take it out to the balcony with you, set it beside your foot, unzip it, and let the moonlight kiss every item inside. One night in Amsterdam, a breeze lifts a page from your notebook. It floats down 6 stories and vanishes. You don't chase it, you just smile. Someone else can finish that one, you whisper. And you pack the bag again, tighter this time. Like maybe you're preparing it for something. It's late summer in London, and your hotel room looks like a sound check. Cords tangled, clothes draped over chairs like exhausted performers, and a table full of unfinished thoughts. Cassettes, ashtrays, feathers, scribbled lyrics. Your guitar leans in the corner, humming in its sleep. And there, as always, is your bag. But tonight, there's something new beside it. A stack of drawings no one has seen but you. Not sheet music, not lyrics, sketches. Dozens of them. Most drawn in black ink, some with smudges of colored pencil. You don't show them off, you don't frame them, you just make them. There's one of a cat with stars for eyes. Again, it keeps appearing. You don't know why, you just keep drawing it. Sometimes it's climbing an amp, sometimes curled around a vinyl record. Once it sat at the edge of a moon that was melting like wax. Biographers didn't talk about these for years. They focused on the music, the fashion, the flames. But these drawings, these were the quietest, most private Jimi. The one who didn't need a stage to be seen. You begin to stash them in the side flap of your bag. Not just a few, all of them. Your sketches tell stories words can't hold. A spaceship shaped like a Stratocaster, floating past Saturn. A guitar crying into a puddle shaped like a heart. A figure that might be you, but faceless, riding a wave of sound into the stars. They're raw, imperfect, beautiful, and hidden. Here's a strange one. A map of an imaginary city, made entirely of speakers. Street names like Reverb Alley and Feedback Lane. You laugh when you draw it. You say, I'd live there. You begin keeping colored pencils in your bag now, next to your incense and matchbooks. And every time you're alone, really alone, you pull them out. You even start sketching during rehearsals. When someone else solos, you retreat into your notebook, pen flying, eyes half-lidded like you're dreaming with your hands. People start noticing. A journalist once asks, "Do you ever think of making a comic book?" You smile. "I think I already am." You never name the character, the star-eyed cat, but it appears on the back of your lyrics, on napkins, even carved into your guitar case with a pocket knife. You tell a friend, "If you see this little guy, it means I'm still around." Your bag becomes a portfolio, a traveling gallery, but no one sees it, not even your closest people. It's your secret language, your dream diary in ink and lead. It now holds a tiny bottle of purple ink you bought in Italy, a sharpener shaped like a rocket, a drawing of a stage that curves like a galaxy, a list titled People Who Might Understand. There are only 3 names. And then there's the cat again, on a postcard, tucked deep in a zippered pouch. This time, it's perched atop a cassette labeled Jimmy's Laugh, slowed down. That tape is weird, haunting even. Just you laughing, distorted, echoed, looped. It sounds like joy from another dimension. You play it for yourself before shows sometimes, just once, just enough. You start sketching in color more often. Not just the blues and purples everyone associates with you. Now reds, oranges, greens. You draw instruments that don't exist. A trumpet with vines growing from it. A drum set shaped like a planet. A guitar plugged into a tree. You're building a sound world in pictures. A place where notes have houses and chords walk on 2 legs. One day, you doodle something and immediately rip it out of the notebook. Not because it's bad, but because it feels too real, too close. You don't throw it away. You fold it carefully and tuck it into the front pocket of your bag, behind the train ticket and the tiny jar of glitter. It's a picture of a door, just a door, floating in space. On the back, you write, "Maybe someday I'll go through." Biographers now debate the significance of these drawings. Were they metaphors? Hidden messages? Clues to future albums you never finished? Some think you were planning a full graphic album, music and visuals woven together like dreams and static. No one knows for sure, but in that season, you carried dozens of those sketches with you. Some in envelopes, some loose and curling at the edges. You'd take them out in hotel rooms, on planes, backstage, study them like tarot cards. And your bag? It was bursting. It jangled now when you walked. Colored pencils, trinkets, cassette tapes, a harmonica you still didn't play. A roadie once picked it up and said, "Damn, man, this thing's like a spell book." You laughed. "It is," you said. And maybe it was. Late one night, you're staying in a flat with high windows and no curtains. The moon paints silver rectangles across the floor. You sit cross-legged, bag open, papers spread out like a fan of feathers. You sketch quietly for an hour. 2. You lose track. What you draw that night no one will ever see. It's the only one you burn afterward. You watch the page curl in the ashtray, the smoke drifting like a solo fading into silence. Then you pack your bag again, softly, lovingly, like tucking in an old friend. There's a heaviness in the air that has nothing to do with the weather. It's September now, 1970, and London feels like it's standing still. Gray skies, sleepwalkers on sidewalks, headlines curling at the edges. You're staying in a borrowed flat in Notting Hill, far from the roaring crowds and hot lights. It's quiet, almost too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a question no one wants to ask. You've played your last show just days ago, but you don't know that yet. You've been drifting between rehearsals, conversations, memories. Your hands move slower now, not stiff, just careful, like they're trying to hold something that's slipping away. And still, your bag sits nearby, faithful, heavy, always. It's more than just leather now. It's become a vault, sealed with the pressure of everything you haven't said aloud. Tonight, it holds a crumpled hotel receipt from Dusseldorf, a cassette tape with a faded label, one last try, a pressed daisy between pages of your skybook journal, a piece of string tied in a loop you say is a lucky noose, and something new, a letter, handwritten, sealed, addressed only with your name. The letter, no one knows who gave it to you. Some say it was a fan. Others claim you wrote it to yourself. The paper's worn at the corners. You haven't opened it. You keep telling yourself, maybe tomorrow. You spend most of your time inside now, lying on the floor, listening to playback tapes, rearranging songs that still aren't quite done. Everything feels half-formed, like a sentence mid-breath. Your friends come by in waves. Some check in. Others hover and leave. There's talk of travel, of new projects, of America, of starting again. You nod, smile, strum your guitar absent-mindedly. But something inside you has already begun to quiet. You've stopped unpacking the bag. It just stays zipped, waiting. There's a night. You can't sleep. The flat is too warm. You walk barefoot to the window, crack it open. London's outside, soft and gold in the lamplight. You carry the bag with you, settle into a chair, unzip it without thinking. One by one, the pieces emerge like ghosts. The matchstick with one strike left, the marble, the monkey doll, the drawings, some folded, some smeared with time. And then, the cassette. One last try. You hold it for a while. Don't play it. Just hold it. Biographers have a field day with this period. They speculate about the tape. What was on it? A song? A goodbye? A sound no one else would understand? The tape disappeared after you did. Some say it was destroyed. Others claim it was stolen. Some even believe it's still out there, changing hands like a sacred artifact. No one knows for sure, but they all agree. You carried it everywhere that final week. There's a story. A hotel porter swears he saw you slip the tape into someone else's coat pocket. Tall guy, he says, long scarf, didn't speak. The man never came forward. Maybe that's how you wanted it. You begin recording voice memos on a handheld tape deck. Random thoughts, fragments. You whisper things like, make the guitar sound like it's melting. Maybe laughter is the real note. I wish I knew how to explain color through sound. The tapes pile up. Most of them go unnamed. You hum in your sleep now. Soft riffs, little lullabies. Someone tells you you're always singing Angel when you drift off. You don't remember. One morning, you pull the old feather from your bag, the one from Monterey. You twirl it between your fingers like a wand. Then you tuck it behind your ear. You look in the mirror. You smile. Still magic, you say. You decide to write a list. You grab a napkin, the same kind you used to scrawl on in cafes, on tour buses, in dressing rooms. At the top you write, for the next life, things to bring. And underneath, a guitar made of water, a pen that writes only truths, that one laugh from Mitch's cassette, and a lighter that only works with music. You fold the napkin, add it to the bag. You don't write any songs that day. You don't draw. You just sit with the bag in your lap like it's breathing. You whisper to it. You say, you've carried so much for me. Maybe now it's your turn to rest. You zip it up, Leave it at the foot of the bed. That night, you fall asleep to the sound of distant traffic, a ticking clock, and your own heartbeat slowing to a hush. And when the morning comes, the bag is still there, still full, still sealed, still Jimi. The world doesn't quite know what to do when you're gone. It moves, of course. Papers print headlines, radio stations spin tributes, fans gather with flowers and photos and guitars they can't bear to touch. But there's a pause underneath it all, a universal hush, like someone just pulled the plug on a dream that was still mid-scene. You leave behind no grand announcement, no choreographed farewell, just a moment that slipped too quickly from night into morning. The exact cause? Still debated. The intention? Forever unclear. Some say accident, others whisper exhaustion. Grief always needs an answer, and the truth rarely satisfies. What remains is the music and the bag. Yes, the bag. Still zipped, still humming. It takes days before someone opens it. It's found tucked beside your bed, upright, like it had one more show to catch. When they finally unzip it, they find not chaos, but curation. As if every object was exactly where you meant it to be. A roadie describes it as like walking into someone's dreams with the lights on. Inside, they find the monkey doll, worn and faded, its little vest still buttoned. A torn lyric sheet with the phrase, "Sound is the only truth," underlined 3 times. A silver spoon wrapped in a silk scarf. Several cassette tapes, some labeled, some not. A journal entry that reads, "Am I the sound, or just the echo?" There's also a folded map of the world, with dots in places you never toured. Brazil, India, Iceland, the Bahamas. At the top, scribbled in your looping hand, "Next time." One tape in the bag is blank, no label, no markings, nothing. But when someone plays it, it's not silent, it's breath, just breath, soft and slow. Then a single chord, suspended, vibrating like a soul mid-sentence. Then nothing, just enough to break a heart. Biographers descend, theories bloom. They try to stitch a narrative from what's left. The sketches, the tapes, the scribbles on napkins, the symbols tucked in your bag like spells. But none of them really know. They weren't there on the rooftops, under stage lights, inside that hotel room with you and the moon and the slow hum of a tired guitar. The bag becomes legend. It surfaces briefly, rumored to be archived in a London studio, then perhaps moved to a private collection in Los Angeles. Some say it's locked away in a vault beneath Electric Lady Studios, still sealed, still sacred. People write songs about it, paint it, tattoo its likeness on their arms. Not because it was fancy, it wasn't, but because it held you. And maybe, just maybe, it still does. Years pass. Your music doesn't. It travels, evolves, lives. Young players hear your solos and freeze mid-fretboard. They buy wah pedals and fuzz boxes, trying to chase your ghost through circuitry and echo. Some come close, most don't. Because it wasn't just the gear. It was the weight you carried, in your hands, in your heart, in that bag. One day, a collector claims to have found something unusual at an estate sale in Brixton. A torn page with a sketch of a guitar shaped like a bird. No signature, just 2 initials, J.H. It matches sketches from your journal. The paper smells like incense. The internet explodes, but the page disappears. Someone posts a grainy photo of it, taped to a wall, surrounded by candles and concert posters. Then it vanishes again, as if the drawing refused to stay still. Biographers still wonder, what else was in that bag? There are rumors. A samurai sword, a flask filled with rainwater, a note that reads, "I'll be back when the stars are louder." A slide made from a broken bottle, still stained with red. All unconfirmed, all very Jimi. At Electric Lady Studios, there's now a wall called the Quiet Room. No one plays there. No music is recorded. It's just space. A couch, a plant, a small wooden table. On that table, a replica of your bag. Visitors aren't allowed to touch it, but they sit beside it. Some meditate, some cry. Some say they hear a soft hum coming from it, like a power source still connected, still waiting for the next solo. One studio engineer leaves a note inside. It reads, "Thank you for carrying all that so we could fly." And then there are the players, the new ones, born long after you left. They don't know the full story. They haven't seen the documentaries. But they feel something when they plug in, when the amp crackles, when the first chord stretches the air like a yawn. They play something unfamiliar, something wild, and someone nearby always says, "That sounded like Hendrix." And maybe that's the point. Your body left the stage, but the bag? The bag's still on tour. Years roll forward like tape on a reel, sometimes smooth, sometimes snarled. The world changes, reshapes itself again and again, but your echo never fades. It's stitched into denim jackets, pressed into vinyl, sampled in songs, painted on dorm walls, whispered in practice rooms, and, curiously enough, displayed in museums. Yes, the bag made it to a museum. Seattle first, naturally. Your hometown wrapped it in velvet and plexiglass and called it the legacy suitcase. People come from everywhere to see it. They lean in close, noses nearly smudging the glass. They whisper, even though it's not required. Something about it demands reverence. Inside the case, a tiny travel-size incense holder shaped like a dragon. A crushed cigarette you never finished. 3 guitar picks, one still smeared with lipstick. A copy of The Little Prince, with corners folded and underlined passages. A scrap of purple velvet with burn holes, possibly from Monterey. And yes, still, the monkey doll. Its vest is missing a button now, its fur more matted than before. But there it is, perched upright on a coil of stage cable, like it's seen the entire world and still isn't impressed. Visitors stare for a long time. They ask questions. Did he carry this every day? What's with the tea packet? Was this the actual lighter from Monterey? What's the story behind this ring? The museum plaques try to explain, but they can't quite translate the feeling. Because the truth is, these objects, on their own, are just objects. It's the arrangement that matters, the combination, the curation that spoke of a man whose inner life was always louder than the crowd. You didn't just pack things, you packed portals. One exhibit display holds a blown-up photo of you mid-laugh, eyes half closed, guitar slung behind your head, and just beneath it, behind glass, the cassette labeled "Backwards Laughs." A staffer tells the press it's the most requested playback in the archive. People stand there with headphones on, smiling. One visitor is overheard whispering, "I didn't know feedback could sound like happiness." Other items have their own glass homes. The tea blend, Saturn Boost, though no one's been able to identify the ingredients. A velvet pouch of colored pencils worn down to nubs. A list titled, "Songs to Play When the Stars Come Closer." A drawing of the guitar-cat hybrid, now known to fans as Star Puss. There's debate over what to include, what to withhold. Curators argue over whether the bag is more meaningful as a whole or in fragments. Some want to leave it sealed forever. Others feel the world deserves to see what you carried. Biographers join the discussion, writing entire essays just on your belongings. They assign meanings, make connections. Some claim you were crafting a visual language long before you had a record deal. Others say you were just collecting noise in object form, capturing vibrations the way others collect stamps. One writer proposes that the bag was a diary with no words, that each object was a syllable, a chord, a memory compressed into physical form. They call it the lexicon of Hendrix. And still, every year, someone finds something new. A Danish collector stumbles on a flyer with a sketch in the margins, one of your unmistakable cats with stars for eyes. It's authenticated and displayed. Fans cry in front of it like it's a love letter from a long-lost friend. In Tokyo, a music shop owner discovers a cassette wedged behind an old amplifier labeled, "For the Room with Blue Curtains." They digitize it. It's 19 minutes of guitar, wind chimes, and the soft sound of you laughing to yourself. And in Paris, a lyric sheet surfaces at auction with the phrase, "When the sky finally listens, I'll be waiting." They try to return it to the collection, but the museum declines. They say, "Let that one live in the wild." Here's a tender truth. People leave things at the exhibit now. Notes, drawings, pics, even feathers. A guard says someone once placed a sealed envelope under the glass with the words, "This helped me survive." They didn't open it. They didn't need to. Because by now, the bag is more than memorabilia. It's an invitation, a soft whisper. Carry what you need, even if no one understands it. Kids who weren't born when you played your last note now doodle on their jeans like you used to do. They draw your cat. They hum your solos. They wear mismatched earrings and tie scarves around their guitar necks. And still, they come. To see the bag, to lean in, to wonder, to feel. Biographers now refer to this part of your story as the afterglow era. They write about how your bag continues to perform, silently, softly, like a last note ringing long after the hands have left the strings. And at night, when the museum is dark, a janitor swears he once heard something from the display case. A faint hum, one note, sustained, not loud, just alive. You'd laugh at how they try to decode you now. Every scrap, every scribble, every bent guitar string is examined like sacred scripture. Music historians, museum curators, cultural theorists, they all want to know what you meant, who you were, why you carried that pick, or packed this incense, or wrote, "The sky is an ear," on a fast food napkin. They flip through journals with gloved hands, digitize tapes frame by frame, build timelines from ticket stubs. They want to reduce you to evidence. But you were never meant to be solved. You were a feeling, a flash of light, a question mark wrapped in velvet. And your bag? Well, it's become the most mysterious chapter of all. Some things just don't add up. A curator at a private archive in Stockholm opens a locked trunk said to hold non-exhibited Hendrix artifacts. Inside, they find items not listed in any known inventory. A tiny wooden elephant with initials carved into the side. A page of lyrics written backward, ending with the line, "Sing it to the shadows." A black stone shaped like a guitar pick, cool and perfectly smooth. A list of sounds titled, "Things That Will Outlive Me." The museum cross-checks your handwriting. It matches. The ink is smudged but unmistakably yours. So now, the questions start again. Did you write these in London? Seattle? A hotel room no one knew you stayed in? No one can say. And then there's the flask. You joked about it on stage once, said it was filled with rain from the day I left home. People laughed. But in your bag, they found a battered metal flask, sealed with wax. Someone finally tests the contents. It's water. Just water. But from where? Biographers are split. Some say it's symbolic. Others insist it's literal, that you collected it during a storm in Seattle before your first tour. There's no proof either way. Only one inscription scratched into the base. For when it gets too loud. There are also rumors about a samurai sword. Yes, a sword. A few tour photos show what looks like the handle peeking from your travel gear. A fan in Tokyo swears you told him it was your string breaker of last resort. No one's confirmed it. But the image persists. A sword in a guitar player's bag. Why not? You were never one thing. And now, your bag has become a mirror. Everyone sees something different inside. To a gearhead, it's a toolbox. To a poet, it's a journal. To a kid with a secondhand Strat and shaky fingers, it's a treasure chest. Theories abound. One writer calls it your sonic shrine. Another, a mobile time capsule. One PhD dissertation claims the contents form a kind of emotional music notation system. In simpler words, your feelings, made physical. Even the drawings have become their own rabbit hole. A set of your original sketches, unearthed in a dusty loft in Toronto, is published as the Star-Eyed Cat Journals. It sells out in hours. Inside, blueprints for imaginary instruments, star maps with chords drawn between constellations, one haunting self-portrait where your body is made entirely of tuning pegs, and yes, the cat, page after page, sometimes small, sometimes enormous, sometimes curled around a planet. One fan writes online, "I think the cat was Jimmy's guardian, or maybe it was just him." Others believe it's a code, a signal, a musical cipher that, if cracked, would unlock an unreleased album. There's a whole subreddit devoted to it. They track sightings of the drawing on bootleg covers, graffiti, backstage walls, and the margins of old tour posters. They call themselves the Star-Eyed. Every once in a while, someone claims to find another piece. A ticket stub with a sketch of the cat on the back. A motel receipt with lyrics scribbled down the margins. A pendant found inside a hollowed-out amp shaped like the cat's head. Whether any of these are real doesn't matter anymore. They feel real. That's enough. And what of the people who knew you? They speak softly now. Your bandmates, the engineers, the friends who rode in vans and smoked backstage and heard your laugh in the dark, they remember the bag. They remember you touching it gently before every show. They remember that you'd sometimes unzip it during sound checks and whisper to whatever was inside. One friend recalls you opening it just once, in silence, and pulling out a folded paper. On it, a sketch of a stage with no instruments, just light. They asked what it was. You said, maybe the next gig. Biographers still debate your last weeks. Was there a plan? A message left behind? They zoom in on the last page of your journal, the last cassette, the last word you wrote. But the bag is where your story curls in on itself. Not a conclusion, a continuation. Because somehow, it still turns up. In dreams, in stories, in new music, played by strangers who've never held your albums but bend strings like they're chasing something ancient. They don't even realize they're echoing you, but they are. Every time someone plays barefoot, every time someone draws their own stage with crayons and labels it, "For when I'm ready." Every time someone tucks a strange trinket into their backpack before they leave home, not because it's useful, but because it feels true. That's the legacy of the bag, not just what it held, but what it inspired others to carry.